Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right, we're talking about The Evil Dead, still on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from some rat-ass cabin in the woods in Tennessee. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. I'm going to unpack all the goriest and oatmeal-filled details of the second half of The Evil Dead in the hopes that a Deadite's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust to make sure if she puts somebody in the motherfucking cellar, they're going to stay in the cellar. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I'm good. I spent a little time before recording trying to figure out if it was possible for me to do the entire podcast with either a mouthful of milk or a mouthful of what appears to be dishwashing liquid.
Sure, yeah.
But I could not figure out a way to do that would not result in a huge, disgusting mess.
It didn't seem like anyone in the movie seems to be able to figure that out without making a huge, disgusting mess. And in fact, if you were to subtitle the film, Huge Disgusting Mess would probably be a good call. Yeah. This
is the we need the laser disc chapter for this entire last 40 minutes is Huge Disgusting Mess.
It's absolutely true. Gina, I don't want to scare you, but we are not alone. That's right. We have a very special guest. You, of course, know her as a horror bon vivant, right? She is everywhere that if you are looking for horror, chances are she's probably there, right? She's an actor. She's a dancer. She does everything, including recruit me monthly to try to do horror trivia, which I fail at. And of course, most importantly, she is a returning champion here to Kill by Kill. The one, the only, Elissa Wagner. How are you doing today, Elissa?
Hello, I am doing great. And you are not a failure on the team. You are probably the best one. So.
That is patently untrue. We have been doing this for years now. No one can call me the clutch player on our Dead Right horror trivia team.
Listen, we may fail, but we're winners in our hearts. That's true. All that matters.
Listen, we're not at the bottom, and we're most certainly not at the top. We're right in the middle.
We're usually in the middle, sometimes lower middle, but you know what? I'm gonna blast Jared because I like blaming everything on him, so I hope he listens to this. It's all Jared's fault.
What are the chances? Jared, if you're listening, your mom. Anyways,
your mom.
We're talking about The Evil Dead. Now, in the previous episode, Gina and I discussed how we had kind of come to this motion picture after ingesting Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn. What's your story?
My story?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you said Gina. I'm so sorry.
Well, okay. Gina and I talked about it in the last episode. So like, oh, you're the only one who wasn't there. So I'm going to pick on you here right at the top and ask you, when was the first time you saw 1981's The Evil Dead?
So I was trying to think about that. And this is one of the very few horror movies, like the classic movies that I love so much that I genuinely can't remember specifically when I saw it. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty sure it was around the time of my horror awakening in the early mid 90s when I was probably too young to be watching this. When my mom helped out at the Albertsons video rental side section. Remember those? And she brought home inventory and she brought home horror movies and she did the thing that all 80s, 90s parents did. And they're like, turn a blind eye, not know what we're watching. I'm pretty sure I saw Evil Dead 2 first, but I remember the first time I watched this was after I had my whole curiosity thing when the internet was really cool and fresh and like GeoCities and Angel Fire websites were a thing. And I remember reading reviews about how gory it was. And I didn't even know what gore was. And I was so excited to see it. But the franchise on a whole holds a very special place in my heart because a year before the pandemic, I played Annie in Evil Dead the Musical. And that was one of the best experiences of my entire life to see all the fans just like Rocky Horror styling it in the audience with Ash. And oh my gosh, it was amazing. So watching this, I kept hearing the musical cues and wanting to sing like a freaking nerd, and it was awesome.
Excellent. Gina and I also came at this after watching the sequel, and so it's a little tinged by that, but watching it again with some fresh eyes here, I personally fell back in love with it. There's just an element to this that is hard won, that is charming.
Yes.
And charm is in short supply. You can't manufacture charm. It only is something that occurs in the eye of the beholder, and you can't plan on it ahead of time. It's not a saving grace you can rely upon. This is charming simply by the fact that everyone involved in it cared so much about it that they endured its photography.
Well, that's why I think it stands the test of time too, because honestly, it shows what you can do on a nothing budget, and it's possible. So nobody can ever say, oh, I don't have the budget to make this work, because I would on any given day much rather see Oatmeal Shelley on screen than see like Pennywise CGI face on screen.
Right, exactly.
Not that I hate that, but I am not a CGI fan. So I would rather just plaster some oatmeal on someone's face and call it a day. And to me, that's scary, and I love it. And it's passion. That's passion. I love it.
Yeah. Hearing about, the travails of making this film happen, and that unlike some of the other, at least unlike the sequel, where that's very Ash focused. It's almost like the last 40 minutes of this are what the first 40 minutes of Evil Dead 2 are. They sort of repeat those themes with an eye towards causing more harm to their high school friend.
Have any of you read If Chins Could Kill?
Yes. Once upon a time. Certainly not recently, but yes.
Highly recommend the audiobook of that. Bruce Campbell is the love of my life. Do not tell Corey Feldman that. But yeah, it's so interesting to read all the accounts and what the cast went through and how they were just tortured.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's an element to it. It's something you can't replicate necessarily, because part of the reason why Raimi and Tappert are allowed to get away with it is because Bruce accepts it as part of the deal to making the movie. And he wants to make the movie more than anything else. And as a result, it's something you can get behind. Whereas if you just watch somebody actually being harassed and tortured on a set of a movie, it probably wouldn't be as much fun as this.
Yeah.
No.
That is the truth.
And, listen, it's not to say that the stop motion or the janky camera effects here are any less artificial than CGI.
Oh, it looks so cool, though.
But they're more handmade. They're bespoke. You couldn't recreate them if you tried. Whereas CGI is something you can recreate. Yeah. And as a result, it loses something in the mix.
So probably a lot of low budget horror movies, and even ones that are come out today, is there's a real sense of, well, we don't have to make it good. This costs us 30 cents. We don't have to make any real effort here. But I really get the sense from one of the things that makes Evil Dead such it's a weird word to describe, but a lovable movie is they really wanted to make a good movie. And you really see now, there's a lot of you can tell when there's at least 3 different actors playing Linda. And it is very easy to tell when they're switched out. That burial scene is particularly egregious in switching out different stand-ins to play her. And
it's like
but they are really trying the very best that they can. They're not. I don't get the sense that they're winking at the audience and say, "Yeah, there's a piece of shit. We know it." They really are trying to do the best that they can with what they have.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's just the word is charming, because, you know, it's one of the greatest midnight movies to watch with an audience. And while I think the first one may not be, you know, everyone's quote unquote favorite or most exciting or whatever, I just think it's probably easily my top 3 list of just films that I respect the most. I think just on what they were able to accomplish and just how, you know, they had an idea, they had a passion, they had a drive, and they did it. And look what happened. And it was awesome.
Yeah, we were discussing it in a previous episode, but to think about something that you made in your early 20s that becomes a sacred cult object that's as influential as the Evil Dead becomes. That's hard to grasp.
Yeah, I can't
because
imagine.
Everything's a bit more ephemeral just because there's so much more coming out. And that's not to denigrate anyone who's producing something. We're producing something right now.
Right.
It's just that the torrent that comes out now is such a massive tsunami in comparison to the slow trickle and spurt of 1981 and trying to get this out there. And we mentioned it briefly in the previous episode, but I wanted to go back to it ever so briefly and talk about our old pal, Uncle Stephen King, the media critic who is yet to see a bad movie or TV series.
Uncle Stevie.
Yeah. Listen,
I love him.
he loves it when someone puts something on, and so do I in many respects. But he's awful generous. That being said, when he is full-throated about something and he calls a shot, it's worth noting, and I think this is what puts him on the map for that, because the quote that goes on the movie poster that gets this, you know, run in hundreds, if not thousands, of drive-in showings for years, is his quote calling it the most ferociously original horror movie in ages. And I think there are 2 words that are interesting about that quote. And one is original and the other one is ferocious. And so I guess I will ask each of you in turn. Gina, do you think this is more ferocious than original or more original than ferocious?
I think the second one is more ferocious. Mm-hmm. But just by design of how these things work, this one's more original.
Yeah. What say you, Elissa?
I agree as well. I mean, this is definitely original. If you think about that time, there were very few movies quite like this that kind of came together the way this did. Mm-hmm. And it's just something, just, a Sam Raimi film when you're watching it. And I think just because of that, it's more original than ferocious. But I agree about the second one being more ferocious.
Yeah. The second one, you're basically watching Ash just lose his mind, and here he's just more scared than anything else.
It's and that contrast, because I think the general public, at least, probably knows of Ash Williams being more of the kind of cynical, crotchety, curmudgeon man, sarcastic man. And it's just so, and a lot of people, I know there are other camps who just, they hate that. They can't stand that. It's like Freddy Krueger. But watching this one again and just being so familiar with the second two, you kind of, the moment Ash goes crazy and he just kind of says, fuck it. And he just lost his mind. And then that, like, just something in his brain shifts. And I think that's plausible. I think that makes it plausible. Why in this one, he was just like, this is so literally, like, there's a song in the musical called What the Fuck Is That? Like, it's like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, he's like, up to a point, he's pretty useless.
Right.
When I think it's Cheryl, Shelley, when she is attacking Scott, like, he's just standing there. Like,
I was gonna say,
yeah, he's
clutching an axe.
He has no idea what he's supposed to do in this situation.
He looks mildly inconvenienced, like he saw a child pee his pants, and he just felt really bad for that child. Like, he just looks kind of like,
like Scott is telling him what to do, and he still won't do it.
Yeah. No,
the-
there's no amount of instruction that's going to get him to participate in the death of a person who, up until moments ago, he knew to be a human being and now is, a bad milk robot just looking to stab anything. And as such, there's layers to him that eventually shed a little bit for the purpose of making a different type of motion picture. Whereas here, he really does have levels that he increases by over the course of the film, and to the point where he's like, he has to chain up the remains of his girlfriend. And he's like, all right, time to chop up this person. And he can't do it. He can't bring himself to that point. That's just not something he's capable of. He's not going to pop on that chainsaw onto the stub of his hand and yell groovy. That's a different level of character than what we get in this motion picture.
And I think that's a very human response too, because honestly, if we were stuck in that exact same position, we could just have that, fight or flight response that just plants us there and not knows what the hell to do. So on that regard, I do understand why he would maybe just stand there and just like, I can't bring myself to do this.
Yeah.
And it's,
It makes sense. It truly does. And so that was the other kind of enlightening element that I started to pick up on, because to help the listener understand where we are in the recording of this, we had recorded the first half well in advance, and now we're kind of backed up because of travel, doing this more immediately. And in the intervening time, I have seen feedback and conversations about, not from our, the listener that we talk to on the regs, but more the satellite, where the conversation ends up online just on the basis of bringing up the Evil Dead. And I have heard people refer to these characters as rote, unoriginal, stock, and the only one I agree with, filled with way too much blood for one body. I agree with that last one, but I don't agree with the first three.
Now, I think that depends on the age group too, who might be saying that, because maybe these certain youngins are used to a certain type of movie who think maybe this is all cliche, or this is, they're all, the same characters I've seen over and over again. But at the time, it was not.
Well, this wasn't a repeatable formula. They created the formula.
Right.
You can obviously trace it to very distinct influences, but you can't say that there was a bevy of Evil Dead movies before The Evil Dead. That's just not something you can levy at this particular motion picture. So as such, there's only so much room for characterization. And how I feel about it is, it's not like the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 level of character building. I will grant you that. But I also feel that each of these characters are their own person. They're not like just the writer's voice split into 5 individuals. They have distinct personality types and distinct purposes within the machinations of the motion picture. And as such, they're well above what you would expect for this motion picture. And any tropiness I think younger generations might feel about it is the combined effect of this film's influence on multiple generations of filmmakers. You have seen stuff like this before, not because it existed before The Evil Dead, but because it existed a whole lot after, because so many people saw The Evil Dead and said, I think I can do that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly, Gina, we've covered plenty of horror movies that think they can pull off Friday the 13th. It's a deceptively simple thing that you think, I can make one of those. And this is a much larger task in my mind than just a bunch of young people off in the woods and they get hacked to death by an unseen assailant. This is a zombie movie, but also demonic possession, but it's action, but it's gore, but there's psychological horror, There's a whole bunch of effects that go into this.
Yeah.
The level which they're trying to swing at is so much higher than I'm just going to get together with a bunch of my friends and put one of these on. It's not a barn where you're going to put on a show and come out with The Evil Dead.
Right.
Right.
I need more pushback from the both of you. I need you to argue against me.
What did I tell you? I said when we started the first episode, I said you are not going to hear any complaints about this series from me.
It's so hard. Yeah, I mean, everything you said, I agree with as well. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard. I mean, you can recreate it. You can just pump this out, constantly. But whether or not, it's whether you're going to still create something different within that. That's the question, which is what I think why this is so great of a movie is that it does set that example, but it's so hard to just because there are so many genres, like subgenres within the genre, especially throughout the whole franchise, that it's like, how do you even attempt to recreate that unless you're trying to do something like Cabin in the Woods that's just perfectly paying homage to it,
Right.
It's, yeah.
And because at least with you got Cabin in the Woods, you're talking about a film that's both using it as a launching point and then something that you comment on and something that comments on what you're producing. There's a lot of levels to that. Now, I don't need to denigrate other pieces of art in order to elevate The Evil Dead, but simply in terms of personal taste, I'll make a quick comparison. And Gina, you and I covered this on Patreon. But if you were to level this up next to, let's say, Night of the Demons, right? Perfectly fine little flick, right? And the moments that really work in that really, really work, and the moments that don't, in my opinion, don't really work at all. It tells me your level of ambition and talent and what everyone's willing to dedicate to themselves to make that vision happen on screen determines the outcome. And it's not to say that Night of the Demons is a waste of time. Far from it. All I'm saying is there's a reason why when you say The Evil Dead, everyone knows what you're talking about. And if you say Night of the Demons, they're like, I think I've heard of that.
Right. I was going to say that I think you've the magic, for lack of a better word, in these movies, and somehow miraculously in the recent takes on them, even though Sam Raimi wasn't directly involved in them, is the people that make these movies really love these movies. And a running pattern that we've discovered in this endeavor that we've been doing lowly 7 years now is you can really tell when a filmmaker, particularly in horror, does not give a shit about whether the movie is good, whether the movie makes any sense, whether there's a mass appeal. But in these movies, like they are putting on a show. And the newer movies, they're respectful to the original material. There's no sense that they're trying to right some wrongs which is one of the reasons for me that the David Gordon Green Halloween movies really just do not work for me as a whole, because it feels like they looked at these earlier movies and said, yeah, no, those all suck. This is a better way to do it. Which is fine because some of them do suck. But at the same time, it's like you're coming out of the gates with this sort of sense of unearned arrogance for someone who's never made a horror movie before. But there's no arrogance here. There is just, we have this idea, we have about, 12 cents in our pocket to make it, but let's try to, make the best thing we could possibly make for an audience that loves this kind of thing. And we love them. And you can really, that comes through.
Yeah, and I think it's also because they had so many less higher ups, I would imagine, to control the outcome of it than, let's say, David Gordon Green's Halloween movies, which I clenched my seat when you said that, because I just that could be just a whole other. I have so many just varying opinions, but yeah, I mean, a lot of times I feel like especially with unfortunately, like Blumhouse and things like that, a lot of them have to kind of cater to what's going to sell tickets, what's going to get butts in the seats. And a lot of times the higher ups, they'll say, you know, how about this? We love Halloween, but oh my gosh, for a second, I thought I was joking until I realized this was Halloween Ends. But instead of Michael Myers, let's not have Michael Myers.
Let's make someone young and cute for the
not young and hip. Who's hot right now
to appeal to the female audience.
Who's gonna bring them tickets? No.
What if we made Michael Myers soft and cuddly? So soft and cuddly, he's getting bullied by band members. He doesn't go to high school. These random band members bully him after they get out of school. He doesn't attend. Oh my God. Listen, we could go down that path for hours, but I do find it interesting that, and this isn't always the case, but when you were dealing with a studio that obviously is saying to themselves, this is what the things we have to have in this motion picture in order for it to be a hit. And then you think back to something like The Evil Dead, and they're not worried about it being a hit. They're trying to make the best possible movie they can in any way they can. And if that means redoing it a bunch of times, that's what they're going to do. They went into this thinking it would cost $125,000 and ended up costing $500,000. So it's not like, even though it was a very low budget movie, it's not like there wasn't risk involved in what they were doing. But there was no one over their head saying, this is what you have to have in this film in order for it to be a hit.
Yeah.
The only, competitive notion they had is this has to be the best movie we're ever going to make, because there's zero guarantee that we're ever going to make another one. And it doesn't always work out in that filmmaker's favor. But I do think that genuine enthusiasm and back against the walledness, where you have to invent a way out of a terrible, problem that you've made for yourself, that causes you to do things you might not do otherwise. And as a result, it becomes more ferociously original than anything with a dozen executives from various, parties who own part of that IP, all demanding that X, Y, and Z be a part of the finished product. Yeah. It just does it. Like I want every movie to be good, but not every movie is going to be good. But I don't think that fucking helps.
No, and even if they're not good, if you know that somebody's doing it, I mean, I rarely see this happening these days, because you kind of, in order to get your film out there and seen, a lot of times you have to have that kind of studio control, unfortunately. And if more films were allowed to be as relatively free as this one, or if writers were allowed to have what's on paper, or directors allowed to do what they wanted to do exactly the way they wanted to do, I can almost guarantee you a lot more films out there would be a lot better than they turned out.
Yeah. It's just engaging in that specific level of passion. And
yeah, they didn't, it wasn't a business for them necessarily at this point. It was a passion. So
right. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's where the magic lies in right there.
Right. And that being said, Sam Raimi later in his career makes it a habit. He's not the only one who does it, but a noticeable example of he wears a suit to set. And the reason is this is a job. And I respect the job that everyone else around me is doing enough to treat this like a job. And I don't think you need to have a suit on to do that, but I do think you need to have that kind of respect for every artisan around you.
Yeah.
To make what you're doing mean more than it would otherwise. And that sort of I'm above this attitude, and that poisons things. And the other thing that poisons stuff is fear. Not fear that you'll fail. Fear that everyone will think you're a failure.
Yeah.
That nothing stinks more.
Ain't that a bitch?
It just, people can smell it from a mile away.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make you a good hang. Conversely, it doesn't make your art a good hang.
Right.
And the reason, as disturbing and as unnerving and weird as the Evil Dead is, it's still a good hang because you feel the passion going into every moment around it.
Right. And you actually really do see the team effort behind it too. Like it was a very much a collaborative effort and right down to the Shemps. And it was just, and I love that. I love that.
So now that we've talked about the Evil Dead in general for half an hour, why don't we talk about the actual movie?
I gotta go. Actually, I just wanted to.
Sorry. Well, why don't you tell people where they can
talk
find you?
about my thoughts.
All right. So welcome back to the Evil Dead cabin, everybody. When we last met, Shelley had suffered an attack of sudden oatmeal syndrome, becoming a Deadite, biting off her own hand. Not for any particular reason, mind you. It doesn't make her a better fighter.
I think she just. I honestly think she just tried to freak them out. Which that would certainly work for me. I mean, if I was getting into a fight with somebody and they just like chewed through their own wrist till their hand fell off, I mean, I would certainly be stunned enough for them to be able to overcome me.
Yeah, I would act like Ash in that moment. Just stand there.
Exactly. And it's an original component to it that we'll start to see more and more. I mean, certainly Freddy does a lot of this where he's like, hey, look what I can do. And then he cuts something off and ooze comes out of it. But here, there's no impulse within the Deadites to go, this is going to help us win the day. They're simply agents of chaos. I just gained a hand. You know what would be funny? If I bit it off.
Yeah.
It's not going to help you win the war against the living. They don't fucking care. They're not an organized force. Like that doesn't happen for 2 more movies where someone comes in and goes, listen, I've decided maybe we should kill all the living. Everyone act like an army. And then everyone's like, I guess I just got bones, but I guess I'll make one of them a flute. Sure.
Yeah, play bone flutes. I was going to say.
That's how you win a war. You get bone flutes.
Bone flutes.
Here, there's no bone fluting. It's just like, you know what will make these people just shudder up against the wall, hoping it all just ends? If I bite my own fucking hand off, that's got the dagger in it that can kill you. I don't need this. I can outlast you. I don't need this hand to win this fight. Nope.
And I think that's why it makes it so creepy too in this film is that they're just, you feel like you can't win if they're just constantly being like, oh yeah, I don't care.
Right. It's like that moment in the book of World War Z where the army faces off against this horde of zombies and they're like, don't proceed across this bridge. And they just all start running at you. And it's like, well, all right, we'll start shooting them. And they don't care. Bullets don't mean anything to fucking zombies. They don't care. Yeah. That's not on their priority list. And then they get overrun because you can't shock and awe zombies. And here, Deadites absolutely can shock and awe your ass into just crawling up against the wall, clutching an axe. Like, I hope this is over soon. I don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah. And I think that's why Deadites scare me the most out of any kind of villainous creature of horror. And every time an Evil Dead film comes out, like with the 2013? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2013 and Evil Dead Rise, I get hesitant to see them because they scare me.
They're very effective. Especially when they dig in and start with the mocking and the laughing and all. I mean, it's a very sadistic edge to it. That's very effective.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the entire time Scott is fighting Shelley, you've got a cellar hag yelling at him. No, you love her. Like, well, yeah, don't do that. Two people you love this person.
Yeah. His sister and his girlfriend. It's like, what the
You love this person who just ate their own hand off and is trying to stab you with a bone knife.
Ugh.
It gets to the point at a certain point where Scott is just begging Ash to like hit her. And then he goes, hit it. He even changes the pronouns and hopes that it's not a her anymore. It's an it. And Ash is like, I don't know. This might as well happen. He is in that Friday the 13th. Well, it's been a good run mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like I'm just
Yeah.
gonna pretend I'm in Hawaii or something. I'm not here right now. Please leave a message.
Disassociating. Yeah.
He's drinking something with an umbrella out of a coconut, you know? He's not there. To the point where, like, after Shelley kind of decomposes a little bit and explodes, he is shaking Ash going, we've got to bury her. Like, guys, Shelley has just been chopped up with an axe and parts of her are still shaking. I don't know if you cut up somebody and they're still moving around a lot and someone's going, we got to bury this. I don't know that I can because it's still moving around.
Right.
That implies it's still
Yeah,
alive.
I'm not
spider.
touching any of those parts.
Yeah, I can barely touch a spider that still looks alive, like a tiny little spider, let alone a freaking former human, now oatmeal demon. Like that just, it's, and also watching the scene, by the way, because I have it on in the background. This was my first time watching it since doing the musical. And now my brain is just, I don't know if you both or any of you are familiar with the musical, but there's a duet between Scott and Ash where right after they chop her up, they just sing a tango called What the Fuck Is That? Your girlfriend was a demon too. I love it. It's so good. It is so good.
I think you can see something like this as a direct line to Return of the Living Dead, where it doesn't matter what you do to that particular subset of zombie, they're going to continue on. There is no destruction of them.
Yeah.
Even when you put them in a fire, that becomes an environmental hazard where it just continues to create. There's no stopping of the zombies. They're just, you can contain them. You cannot control or destroy them.
That's what's so scary.
As such, that is one of the big unnerving the quietly unnerving qualities of the Evil Dead, that there's no resounding, aha, I've killed a Deadite. You don't know what you fucking killed. There's no guarantee that shit's going to stay in a grave.
Right. Because, I mean, Deadites were a new concept at this point.
Exactly.
So there was no formula, no like, oh, all they need to do is this and then they're going to die. And so it was scary.
I mean, the best you can do is wait for the sun to rise.
Exactly. I think pairing this with vampires is one of the saving graces that is the underlying connective tissue here, is that Deadites don't do well in the sun until they do. Until it's time to just rush at you through a cabin and put you on a spinny cam. They don't do so well in the sunlight. They kind of lose their luster as it is.
And just rushers.
Now, Scott, being Scott, decides, listen, I'm not going to stick around. We got to leave. And Ash is like, well, I have a girlfriend. She was stabbed very painfully in the ankle. She's not going to be able to hike out this motherfucker. We can't drive. The bridge is out. And Scott's like, see ya, don't want to be ya.
Yeah. He just pieces out real
that
fast.
might be that might be horror's most. It's a YP, not an MP.
Yeah. I don't know why he feels he's immune to getting the same tree battering syndrome that Linda received, or not Linda, that Cheryl received earlier. But of course, she really wasn't able to communicate that quite. She's like, the forest is alive. And Scott's like, I don't know what the fuck that means. You're hysterical.
I mean, for all he knows, it's all in the cabin. So he's safe if he just wanders out there.
Right. And meanwhile, Ash is like, well, she's a human being. I'm not really going to abandon her. And Scott's like, well,
good luck with all that.
And just takes off for the wilderness, which is a great plan. No notes. And so Ash, being the sensitive, soft boy that he is, he instantly goes back to check on Linda, who's in yet another disconnected room in this voluminous cabin that seems to have an endless amount of rooms for what is on the outside a tough shed.
And now she's wearing, apparently, demonic possession has given her some sort of like lingerie set.
Right.
I mean, that's par for the course.
Yeah. I would say if anything kind of becomes a trope after this, it's that once you go Deadite, all of a sudden your horniness level goes through the roof. But what makes you horny is very different. It's not sex-based. It is sexual, but it's more like it's fun to have a body and to tease you, asshole.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And so she instantly has an ankle wound that spider webs outward. And boom, she's a Deadite. Now, we discussed in the previous episode how everyone's hair turns curly, which
yeah.
I don't know why everyone gets Instaperm other than every Shemp is sharing the same wig. That's probably the reason.
It's the 80s. They love themselves a good perm. So, if they have a human
but they didn't
body,
walk into it with the perm. It's just there's something about a Deadite entering your system where your hair's like, I don't know, time to get curly and bouncy, baby.
They get very humid.
What I think is interesting is how you could see that they are experimenting with different kinds of makeup for each of the Deadites. Mm-hmm. Like you've got Cheryl in the basement, she's kind of a traditional, possessed face, little bit of exorcist face going on, and then you've got Shelley, who's she's just like rotting.
Shelly was just caked on.
Like she looks burnt. She looks half melted. She looks in like active decomposition. And then you've got Linda, who just got the milky eyes and then like the sort of almost like Baby Jane like makeup.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It is a specific look that I have decided to call clown on her day off. Because you're not a full white face, but you just have the white eyebrows, then some pronounced veins, and gangster mole lipstick. It's a distinct look.
A little bit of the Joker lips going up.
A little bit of the Joker lips, but it doesn't really extend beyond the lips. It's interesting. She oatmeals here and there, but that tends to come and go.
She likes her pretty face, I think it is. She just wants to
I think they're trying to, up the psychological torture for Ash, because the Deadites know that he has feelings and they're like, well, let's fuck with that. And so what you get out of her is a lot of maniacal laughter. And what's the deal with her wobbly head? Why is she so wobbly?
I do love the and this kind of we talked about this in the last episode, Patrick, about the very long close-ups of when him and Ash and Linda are when he's thinking about the right time to give her the necklace, and he just the very drawn out slapping her like with like the dramatic stinger of music, twice done. Let's try a third time. Done. Maybe fourth will do it.
It's and then she like comes to and she's not in the clown on her day off makeup anymore. She's like, oh, Ash, don't let them take me again.
Don't let them take me again.
And then you have Cheryl, who's in the basement, who's gone half She-Hulk. She's got oatmeal face, but it's gone green. This does not happen again. It only happens in this one shot. You're like, why don't we add some green for funzos?
Listen, they're experimenting, and it's interesting to see.
Yes.
Because I'm not sure in what sequence they shot anything, but do you think it was maybe a budgetary issue why maybe she wasn't as oatmealed out as the others, or they did something different?
Every time they did it, they tried something different, and they didn't worry about continuity.
I respect that.
Because we don't come to the Evil Dead for reality.
Respect.
And as such, it doesn't matter to me that Ash is constantly getting covered with blood and then walks into a different room and he's like, Well, I got rid of most of that, but there's still some black stuff on my chin and my nose. That's constant. But everything else just kind of comes and goes, baby. Like he should be, when he is drowned in blood, he should be that wet for the rest of the movie. There's no heat source that would be drying that up. But when he gets back up into the main house, he's like, well, that's a crazy thing that happened. But there's no after effects of that. It's just like, who knows if that really happened is the other part. There's no definitive, this is happening in your head, this is happening in reality, unless you get smacked into a bookcase.
And even then, I mean, at this point, if this was happening to me, I would still question reality.
Right. This brings up an interesting question, and I know that you two will bring the interesting answers, and that is, do you think this group is getting that cleaning deposit back?
Yeah, no, they're not getting that cleaning deposit back. They're getting a 1-star rating on Cabin B&B.
Yeah. 1 out of 10, do not recommend.
On Evil Verbo, they're not going to get 5 stars.
No. There was a mess of oatmeal everywhere. Milk was spewed all over the place. They do not know how to handle their breakfast foods.
And there's a book that appears to be made of human flesh that is just charred and sitting in
and now the whole
fireplace.
house smells like burnt flesh.
And you return, right? You rent somebody a place. And then you find out when you go back there that there are 2 freshly dug graves, one of which someone appears to have walked out of. How are you going to explain that to the neighbors?
No, perhaps it was the Deadites' plan all along. Maybe they were around before that they were summoned, and they owned this cabin, and it was all just a ruse.
So you think that maybe Deadites are the result of big hotel that, hotels can handle this sort of thing?
I would not be surprised. Anything's possible.
Anything is
possible.
We didn't mention, but it's true. Scott comes back and the trees have beaten the holy shit out of him. My only complaint is we don't get to see it, because if there's anyone I want to see smacked around after what he's put me through for the first hour of this film, is Scott, to get his shit rocked by branches.
If only there was a deleted scene somewhere.
Truly.
That would be amazing. He kind of turns a little oatmeal-y too. His makeup is kind of half oatmeal.
Gets a little half oatmeal.
Half oatmeal.
Yeah, he gets like a Phantom of the Oatmeal situation happening on his face. Like, I still want to see it move, but I also want to see some oatmeal.
Not quite sure what it wants to do at that point.
Yeah. This at this point, when you've got Ash surrounded on all sides by Deadites, this is when Scott, I can't remember if it's Cheryl who says, "Don't do this to me. I'm your sister." And I'm like, the fuck you just say? Is this the first time I'm realizing that Cheryl and Ash are related?
Yeah, it's I was going to mention that to you. That's like, I discovered that reading it on Wikipedia. I'm like, wait, they're okay, sure. It's like Cheryl Williams, okay.
Oh, did they not establish that earlier? Did I? I mean,
if they did, I've missed it every time I've watched it.
I always knew they were siblings.
I haven't missed it, because I've missed this admission every time I've watched it until this time.
Oh, yeah. I really want to rewatch it from the beginning and see, because I always was under the impression, like, I don't know how I knew they were siblings, but yeah, I really want to rewatch this.
I never really look at them with last names. I'm sure that was the giveaway, but it's not necessary knowledge, because they don't treat each other like siblings.
Well, it makes sense why she is tagging along then.
Right. Why she's slightly disconnected. That's a familial sort of fifth wheel. That it makes more sense that way.
Right. It's like forcing the younger one to come along, and he's like, "Fine, Mom."
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of things that you do to children and not adults, I've never dragged an adult by their ankles.
Really?
No. Huh. No, I've never had need to, nor do I want to have need to.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't wager that would be very pleasant. And I don't want to get lost in thought thinking about it either, because then that would be weird on my part.
I love that. I love that shot. Like when it's just like the camera's just tracking, like her body's being pulled through the cabin.
Oh yeah.
And then the last thing you see is just Shelley just Cheryl just watching them. And I love that. I think it's so well done.
Oh, that's a great shot.
It's great. Ollie will still request an occasional dragging, but it's not as much fun when he's nearing 100 pounds. I'll say that right now. It feels too real. It was a lot of fun when he was 5. And then when Ash like just dumps Linda outside and then comes back like, well, I can't do anything for you now. And goes back inside and attempts to give Scott some water. And all the water does is kind of dribble out the sides of his mouth.
Yeah, God bless, like a dying Scott's not the most effective actor in the world.
He does his best. He really
God bless, he really tries, but
and Ash is, you can feel Bruce Campbell like, you got to give me one monologue where I can get an Irene Ryan acting competition nom out of this. And so he's just giving it his absolute best. And then he's interrupted by a thunderstrike and what sounds to me like a Castle Dracula werewolf.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little late in this movie to add werewolf.
There's just a werewolf.
I mean,
I guess, they're prowling and they're like, well, I'm not getting involved in that shit. I'm letting everyone else in the pack know we're not getting near that cabin tonight. Usually I would scat in there for fun, but not tonight. Linda reappears in the house because, like, what's really keeping her outside? And she stabs Ash in the arm with that Kandarian dagger.
And she licks the blood off like someone is licking hot blood off a spoon. She is just relishing that.
I feel like this is like how Leatherface has his like pretty girl mask, or I feel like this is like the pretty version of the Deadite, because her mascara, she has like drawn on mascara at this part. That's just, it's like her fancy makeup.
But she also has cabaret fake eyelashes.
Yeah,
underneath.
the Liza Minnelli's, like the
It's like, where did she apply that? Like, dude,
that's where she went.
Do Deadites make, like, I mean, it's already obviously changing the appearance, but that's a very specific thing to do.
It's a choice for sure.
It is a choice. Now, I will counter that I don't think she is relishing licking that fake blood off of that fake knife, because I've seen Ollie fake enjoying squash more convincingly. There's the tongue is on there and she's trying. But you also get the feeling like, are you done yet? Are you done yet?
How many takes?
Maybe agree to disagree. I think she's getting a kick out of it, because I would. I think so. I would have so much fun filming a shot like that.
Might taste like strawberry too.
It might.
You never know.
Based on the reactions I've seen of people putting fake blood in their mouth, it doesn't come off as delicious.
Yeah, I've had to do it a few times, and it could either taste like child's medicine, the good kind, or it could taste like the not so good kind.
Yeah. At least this isn't like the Italian giallo fake tempura paint version of blood. This at least has a normal viscosity to it. But I can't imagine it tasting delicious. Now, when Ash and Linda have a fight with this dagger, he shoves Linda up against the wall and she decides, I'm sick of doing this with my right dominant hand. I'm going to put the blade of this knife in my less dominant left hand and see how that goes. Again, Deadites are not looking for victories. I think they're just seeing what interesting happens when I do this.
Yeah, it's like, maybe I'll just wear them down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deadites are triers. They're just, they're not worried about wins and losses. They're experimental.
I was going to say, I don't know if it's established in the later films or if I'm making this up or if it's just a common knowledge, but don't they try to wear you down so you're weak enough for them to possess you? Or am I thinking of a different movie?
Well, I think that's certainly something that's brought up a lot in the 2013 version, because what I initially had I don't know how to feel about this reaction. When I saw it the second time, I'm like, oh, I fucking figured it out. They're not recreating the Evil Dead. They're taking the concepts that they thought were most interesting about the Evil Dead and exploring them to their fullest. And then I'm like, all right, this is fucking genius. And one of those is, I don't normally possess a body. So when I get shoved into one, I'm going to see what I'm going to take this bad boy for a ride. I'm going to see, you can fit so many gory moments into this bad boy. And they slap the hood of the car, which is the body that they're possessing. And so once you understand that concept, 2013 makes a lot more sense as to what they're doing. And I just think that they like fucking with people. It's just what they enjoy the most.
Yeah.
Everything else is a fringe benefit of the psychological horror of tormenting the fuck out of you.
Yeah. Ugh. They love their work.
Yeah.
They love what they do.
If we could all say that to ourselves when we go into a job, we would probably enjoy it more.
I wish I could sit at my desk and just gleefully cackle.
Yeah, just to yourself every so often.
Yeah.
Have somebody glance over, kind of avoid you, step back like Homer.
Exactly.
Just bobble your head when you have the curliest hair you've ever had and just laugh and laugh.
I mean, when I let my hair air dry sometimes, it's just that volume sometimes does make you cackle a bit. There's something powerful about curls.
You are the one friend of mine who has the most unbelievable hair volume I've ever seen on a
I
real
appreciate
person.
that. It's been coming out over the last year. So I try to fake it as much as I can. So maybe I will cackle more. Maybe that does make me want to cackle.
I think you should. You've earned it. You've earned that cackle.
Thank you. It's because I'm a Deadite.
Linda, meanwhile, in her fight with Ash, trips over Scott's dead ass body, because what the fuck is he good for? And then falls on that dagger, which is on her left hand. Don't ask me how it happens, because it's not real. But she instantly goes bad milk robot as a result. And this entire set must have just stunk of rotting ensure.
Yeah, she doesn't die nearly as hard as Shelley does.
Right. Yeah. Well, I feel like Shelley has a lot more parts missing. It's death by misadventure. Of course, it would be ill-advised to say that this is her undoing, because in point of fact, she's not dead yet. This is a mere bump in the road to her eventual fight. So we also get a very slow leak out of Scott's mouth. If there's one thing that Scott is best at, it is losing liquid out of his mouth.
The milk makes me think of Aliens every time I see it.
Right. Yeah.
I think that
it's bad milk robot. And when you think about it, when they're making this movie, it is that is something they probably have just seen. And it's not something that everyone else picks up on, of like, well, if you're going to do a bunch of kids get killed in a cabin in the woods, you're definitely going to spew milk out your mouth.
Yeah.
That's definitely something you're going to see. You also don't think that you're going to hear the love theme from the Evil Dead. And
right.
And yet we do. So Ash initially tries to hack her up in the hack shack, but he doesn't really, he can't bring himself to do that. So he's just going to dig her a grave. And I'm just going to be honest with you. At this point in my life, I have like one grave digging in me per night. I don't think I can dig 2 graves, you know?
It's
maybe a
excessive.
younger man, but
yeah,
not
that's
me.
a little. Well, I mean, you know, Ash is like 22.
Right.
He can handle
it. Yes. I'm just saying this is one of those road, those road signs where you pass by it and you evaluate where you are on your journey. And I am past digging 2 graves over the course of
that first one's going right in my lower back.
Yeah, I feel I've never dug a grave to my knowledge, but I feel like knowing me and
what did someone tell you were digging when you were digging something out of the fresh earth?
I mean, I'm a big fan of treasure hunts, so that's the impression I got. But they make it seem so much easier than it is. I don't know if it's just a strong person's game, but I feel like literally 2 digs and then I would end up just hunched over like for like 5 days straight.
Yeah, there's like a lightning.
I think you would be feeling it in your lower back.
Yeah, there's like a lightning
like
bolt
Gene
coming
said,
out of your back, like a medication commercial.
I can feel it right now. The Bad Back Club is not a fun club to be in.
It is not.
No.
No.
You got to really engage your core in order to get into the earth.
What's a core?
And they don't tell you that.
That's what I say.
So, I've already mentioned the fact that if you own an Airbnb and you come back from renting it out and there are 2 freshly dug graves in your front yard, that's just going to, you can already tell some shit's gone on, that your cleaning bill is just going to be outrageous. Now he manages to get Linda into that grave and completely buried, but of course he's not buried her with the necklace that he gave to her. And so when he reaches down to pick it up off the ground, she carries right on out of there. And luckily for Ash, there's a styrofoam beam from a location shoot of the $6 million man, apparently. I don't know. There's been no styrofoam beams up until this point. It just happens to be outside.
Now, and it's just, I love watching it in lifetime talking about it because these are things I don't notice. I don't pick up on. And she definitely has the curliest of curly wigs in this scene.
Yes.
And she's powdered. Powdered
It
sugar.
makes sense that you have like 14 guys portraying Linda at various points when she's in the makeup, but
this one's my favorite.
I just think you need a less curly wig, all in all.
It's pretty, it's definitely different. It's noticeably different.
It is definitely different. And so, by God, when she comes in for a 4-point frog splash on Ash, he just so happens to grab that shovel and cut her head off with the business end. That doesn't mean he doesn't get bukkakied by her stump after the fact.
There are 4 different heads. Wigs.
There's one where they're like, I don't even know where they got it from.
There was a short-haired wig with very short bangs. The final one just is kind of scraggly, and then the living one is a redhead.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Again, we don't come to Evil Dead for reality. I just enjoy the after effect.
Yeah, if you have a fetish for men getting like liquid in their face, this is it, man. This is all your dreams are coming true.
Go-to. This is your jackpot.
If this is something that gets you off, you can only be so erect. So just keep in mind, it's only an hour and 25 minutes. So he manages to clean up his face for whatever reason. And this is when he realized that Cheryl is out of the basement. And then he gets into a struggle over the shotgun, which ends with Cheryl taking one to the chest, but doesn't really seem to slow her down very much.
No.
And this is when he's let off one shot and he realizes this gun only has 1 shell in it. Where did I see the other shotgun shells? And you just see him go into the basement.
He falls down the basement stairs, which is like the most relatable moment any horror movie I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
This is the one time I do miss the ADR from Evil Dead 2, because there's that wonderful section where he goes, basement.
Oh, yeah.
To no one.
Yeah.
it's just a microphone.
basement.
It's not, you don't see his mouth move. You just hear basement.
Okay, we need to really put exposition in here. We forgot to say where exactly you're going. So here's your ADR.
Let me tell you where it's happening. Basement.
Tool shed.
Gravestone. I don't know why he turned into Christian Bale Batman. Linda.
Swear to me where the basement is. So he goes down into the basement, and then the leaky pipes have now just started to leak blood. And I tell people all the time, do not flush sanitary products or body parts down a toilet, because they will just gather in the pipes down there, and then it's left to me to clean up that mess.
Yeah, they'll just bleed everywhere. They'll just pour buckets of blood if you do that.
Just
no fun for
buckets of blood. You would get a blood explosion. You get a haunted Victrola. You get blood on a movie projector. Blood on the dance floor. Somebody stole my heart. All of it.
Is this the first? Now, you may have the answer, or maybe one of our lovely listeners may have. Is this the first movie to have that whole shot of somebody standing in front of a movie screen while a mysterious projector is projecting something on them?
Yeah, I do wonder that. Because I hadn't remembered that this was a part of this. And this is that moment where, is this happening in real life? Or is this his brain being broken? Because he has that sort of Fay Ray looking at King Kong thing where he goes, I don't know what's doing.
Because you've got Insidious had a pretty effective version of it, and then you've got the first It had the scene where the slide projector basically becomes possessed. Like I said, I'm thinking it probably is not the first, but I think that everything that has come after that is going by this particular scene.
Right. So whatever I think of is definitely after this. I mean, I know it's not a spooky projector, but Friday the 13th 4 has the projector scene, and then there's
absolutely true.
Well, Sinister. I mean,
Sinister. That's what I was thinking. Not
sorts of
Insidious. Sinister. You're right.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
they're kind of the same. They're sisters. They're kissing cousins. If someone in the audience who's shouting at their phone right now, please, you know where.
We don't mind. We can handle being corrected. Just be polite about it.
Yeah.
I would love to be corrected because I'm asking for this information. I swear to you, I won't look it up in between because I will forget that we talked about it until I edit the episode. When Ash does get back upstairs, that very useless clock seems to be ticking and a talking all of a sudden. And then it makes a sound like it's fucking Big Ben. Like, it's very grandiose for a small clock in a living room in an abandoned cabin.
Yeah, and these Dutch angles are aplenty in this scene. I love all of the flippity floppity angles that they just went every which way they wanted to with this.
Well, because he has the freedom of a very small camera.
Yeah.
And he knows the only special effect that he knows he can absolutely deliver at any point in time is a unique POV.
Yeah.
And as such, he's trying to make the absolute most of every shot to just tell you where to look and tell you how to feel about what you see.
Well, and I think anytime there's a, relatively recent or post Evil Dead movie that shows Evil Dead, it's always like this sequence here that they're showing on screen. I feel like, for a good reason, because it's amazing.
And then we have a sequence which, of course, ends up repeating in one of our favorites, Gina, Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, where he reaches into a mirror and oops, it's water.
Yes.
And that breaks his brain. But of course, in Hello, Mary Lou, it's I reach through a chalkboard in a sequence which I still can't believe is in that movie because it looks so fucking good.
I love that movie.
It's the best.
Such a good movie.
It's the fucking best. Like, Gina and I were talking about it little, and I don't. We aren't we're not in charge of the Mary Lou cult, but I do feel like we gave it a very big push at a moment it came back into the public consciousness.
I have no issue taking partial credit for it.
As a listener, I agree. Definitely.
I just think it had been out of circulation for so long. And then when it did come into circulation, we just happened to jump on it at the right time. So the only kudos I can give us really is just having fantastic taste and loving Hello, Mary Lou Prom Night Joe. But this is the point in which Ash hears a horse on the roof, which... unless Santa is coming to town, you probably shouldn't be hearing.
I mean, I feel like that would be the scariest part of all, just out of nowhere hearing a horse.
Yeah, people don't really bring up how frightening it would be to have something the size of Santa's sleigh and reindeer land on your motherfucking roof.
It's terrifying.
It unnerves me when the cat next door jumps on.
Oh, yeah. Or if you hear like a rat in the wall or squirrel on top of your roof, it's terrifying.
Yeah. It makes way more noise than you think. There's no fucking way. Like, Santa better be magical if he's doing that in such a way you don't fucking notice.
Never thought about that.
Cheryl takes a blast to the face, and this is completely unsexual. Scott achieves complete sudden oatmeal syndrome, but also develops a dog nose. Why does he have a dog nose?
Yeah, this is some makeup they were experimenting with that I don't know entirely works.
Maybe they were trying to go for a rotted nose or something.
It really comes off great, Saint Bernard.
It is a little Saint Bernardy. Yeah. Yep.
I don't know if either of you have ever watched the music video for The Dog Police, but I think we should cover it on Kill the Rockstar, Jaina, because it's not intentionally a horror short. It's unintentionally a horror short. You say sure, but you don't sound sure, Gina.
Goodness.
I trust you.
I don't think you should, because you're one person before you know the existence of the Dog Police music video and someone else after. Because that is a song that is under the belief it is very funny. And then you watch the music video for it and go, I don't think any part of this is funny. And all these people should go to jail.
I need to watch it if I haven't already, because I can't place the name, but now I'm very curious.
It is one of the most frightening images you're ever going to see.
Maybe I shouldn't.
Is these three gentlemen walking side by side in dog makeup going, dog police.
Wait, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, weird shit like that is what gets me. Like, that aren't supposed to be scary, but they're just so unnerving that it's just like, why? Is this David Lynch nightmare?
There's just no way they didn't think it looked like a fucking dog. It looks like a dog.
Oh my gosh. When he puts the fingers in Scotty's eyes, he looks like he's wearing like a judge's wig, what are they called? The judge wigs? The powdered wig. Yes. Yeah. Quite simply, the powdered wig.
Like they make his hair gray for some reason, which I can't figure out.
The nose is, in that scene, it's very hard to think that they weren't being intentional with the dog nose.
I think they're going for skull because there's a slight skull tooth thing going on in his upper lip, but there's no other skull elements to it other than the gray of the wig. So I think they were going for a Grim Reaper. It just comes out Saint Bernard.
And shortly after, when he grabs the necklace, it's kind of positioned and shaped in the shape of a skull. So maybe this was the point where it's like, now it's the death. It's death. Death is here.
Yeah, there's an intention behind it. It misses the mark because, what are you going to do? Sometimes people look like dogs. Ash treats Scott's face like an instant Play-Doh fun factory. He pushes in those eyeballs. And then there's like one piece of wood inside of Scott that appears to hold all his blood. So when Ash pulls it out.
It's like a Niagara Falls of blood.
It's like you hope that he has bubble gum in his pocket. Plug it up.
And he has this look on his face like, I needed those 13 gallons of blood to live, and falls over.
Oh my gosh.
And then Scott basically attacks him from the ground because he doesn't have enough blood to stand
He only has
up.
enough blood to operate his
Meanwhile,
one hand.
Yeah, he's got enough juice in him that he's trying to milk Ash's leg. And then Cheryl, meanwhile, is just beating the shit out of Ash's lower back, which has already taken punishment from those 2 graves. But now he's really getting it. And then as a result, he's like, I don't know, if that book can burn, what happens if I burn the entire book? So he uses the necklace to fetch the Necronomicon towards him and tosses it into the fire. And then everyone starts to steam from the inside like a self-cooking hot dog.
Oh, I love those effects. I love them so
They're
much.
so cheap, but still so icky at the same time.
Well, and again, I wish those were the effects used in It Chapter 2. Like, I would much rather see that. I love it. It's creepy.
Yes. It's creepy because it's handmade and it doesn't all fit together. It makes your brain break a little bit.
And I think that's the way I love horror that is so handmade and so unbelievable, but in a way where it's not like they're trying to be, CGI is trying to get away with looking realistic. And when it does it, it's the worst. And here they're not trying to be like, okay, this is going to look exactly like it should look in real life. And I love that. I love that, those kind of effects.
I love that the book just like licks its own eyeball and then Cheryl licks her own eyeball. Like, this is what we do when we're on fire. We lick our own eyeballs.
His hand melts oatmeal.
Yeah.
Like oozes oatmeal.
If you thought we were fucking around with oatmeal, it's
it's flowing in this scene.
It's a choice. And you don't see oatmeal blood or body gore anywhere else, really.
Right. Yeah. And I can't, because this was unrated, you don't really need the oatmeal thing, but I do think it's one of those effects that has a ripple effect over the years where if you don't want to get caught out for using too much blood, go unrealistic with your body contents.
It's effective. It's gross.
Yeah. Are there 2 arms inside of every Deadite in the core of their being, just trying to get out?
I guess so. Yeah.
You don't see that every day. And then when Cheryl does eventually fall over after all the hands, her head falls off and just splashes Ash again.
It's right to kiss her once more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he stands up and he's half dry.
And the other thing that I had seen online, which I found interesting, not interesting good, but everyone's allowed to question things. But I saw someone complain that we never get to see the original form of the Deadites. And I got to wonder, like, who hurt you? Like, there's no version of an original Deadite that would approach what they become when they occupy a person. Like, that is their final form. Just be happy.
Yeah, can't you just...
They have form. Yeah, they're just non-corporeal.
Yeah, I mean, is it more, is it more effective to try to just kind of imagine what they might look like?
Right. Yes. Their form is just whatever they want it to be, really.
It's not like the film holds back visuals.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. That's not what the movie's about. Like, you can think it, but why would you say it? So take that, random internet person.
That was me. I'm sorry.
You should apologize.
I didn't want to admit it, but so I'm very sorry.
Well, there you go. Now it's out there. And now you can work towards redemption.
I'm very embarrassed.
So, all that's really left is to choose our own death venture. And that's where we decide, of the deaths portrayed in this half of The Evil Dead, if you were forced to die in that way, which one would you choose and why? You can get possessed and then get hacked up. Or you can get possessed and get decapitated by a shovel. Or you get beaten to death by an evil tree and then get disintegrated into clay and oatmeal. Or you can get possessed, spend a lot of the time either in a cellar or outside, and then lick your own eyeball before you get steamed from the inside and fall over and just disintegrate. Now, Elissa, you're our guest, and so I'm asking for you to go first.
I mean, it's a tough choice. They all sound very appealing. You know, I could find a valid reason to pick any of those, but I think at the end of the day, after rewatching it, I'm going to have to go with decapitation only because then I get to have like 6 different looks. I get to be a man and know what that's like for a hot minute.
Sure.
I get to have fabulous curly hair.
True.
And I get to just have a mold of my face with like a Stuart from Mad TV haircut briefly when my head gets chopped off.
Sure.
And also I get to look like Liza Minnelli at some point.
Yeah.
So I think the best of all I could look back in my final moments and think, you know what? I did my best. I did it. I did the thing.
I enjoy that answer. Gina, what say you?
It's just whatever character's demise I choose, am I going to have their entire film experience or just this experience for this part of the movie?
I would say primarily it's the experience around their eventual death.
Okay, then I'm going to take Cheryl because I think Cheryl seems like she's having the most fun out of this whole experience when she is turned to a Deadite. And I just like the idea of just kind of watching things from a distance and making like evil Statler and Waldorf commentary. So I think I would pick that.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think just for the sake of variety, I'm going to. It's like I'm never going to pick Scott. Spoiler alert.
I feel like despite you occasionally putting yourself down, I think you'd be a little more useful and helpful than in a situation like this than Scott would be. You certainly wouldn't just say, "Well, good luck, y'all," and attempt to leave without helping anybody. I can't picture you doing that.
Peace out. Yes, I would like to think that as well. I'm going to go with Shelley. She gets really curly hair. She doesn't suffer for that long. She gets to bite off her own hand, and who wouldn't want to experience that?
You get to knock Scott around.
Yes, I get to smack the fuck out of Scott, which is something I've been looking forward to doing.
Very rewarding.
And then after I'm hacked up, all my parts
they do a little jiggle.
They
do a little jello. They do a little jello jiggle.
Each part does their own curly shuffle. That's good. That just about does it. Josh Hollis does all of our fantastic artwork. Go to joshhollis.com for his services. Go to revengebodymemphis at bandcamp.com for this theme, all our other remixes. Elissa, where can people find you on the internet and hear about what you're doing?
You can find me on the Instagrams is where I usually am haunting at Elissa Wag. Very, I just kind of do my thing. There's not a whole lot going on these days, but you can find me there.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
I agree. If I can endorse Elissa being pretty cool.
Thanks. Sometimes.
I believe it with my whole heart. Gina, where can people find you on
I write about movies and television at spool.net. I have a Substack, GinaWatchesThings.substack.com. And I am on Blue Sky and Instagram and TikTok under Gina Does Things.
Do it today, people. Check it out. We're on your socials everywhere but your Twitter. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Threads. We're on TikTok. We're doing it all, baby. We got a Facebook group that all talks to one another. It's really fun that they have a good time if you still got a Facebook. And of course, we have a Patreon where we're doing chat by chat. We're answering your questions. We're just yakking. We're doing bonus episodes. This month, we're doing a bonus episode on Jacob's Ladder, which is one hell of a motion picture. And we'll be doing a commentary at the end of the month. We'll be talking over Night Train to Terror. You demanded it. And so we're going to make it happen. We're going to watch the entirety of Night Train to Terror. That's how much we love you all. That is that is a fucking experience. Let me tell you that. That is one of those where you're going to want to watch the movie with us, baby, because that is a trip. You won't know what the fuck we're talking about. It takes some narrative leaps, everybody. And of course, next week is that very special time of year where we celebrate the national holiday that transcends any given nation, because the movies rarely take place in a fixed locale. It's called Sawsgiving, everyone. It's much better than any other holiday you could possibly celebrate, and it allows you to have some alone time away from your parents that you traveled halfway across the country to visit, and now you're like, I'd like to find a way to not talk to you for a little while, because I fear that you're going to start talking about like school board elections, and then I'm just going to want to die inside. So listen to us talk about a Saw movie. We have no idea what came before or what came after it. This year happens to be a year in which an actual Saw movie was released. So we're going to talk about Saw X, Saw 10, everybody. A lot of people liked it. Will we like it? Maybe. I'm not making any promises. Will we like it? I don't want to poo-poo anyone's good time, but I do want to see what other people call a good Saw movie. That sounds interesting to me.
I love Saw.
So we got a fun guest. We're going to talk about Saw X. It's going to be, who knows what it's going to be, but Jigsaw has a posse and he's taking it to Mexico way. So it's not even taking place in America or Canada. So it's got to be better as a result. We'll see. That's next week on Kill by Kill Sawsgiving. Until then, for myself, for Gina, and Elissa, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.